The rain was coming down hard that evening, turning the sidewalks into streams of muddy water and drenching the city in a gray, merciless gloom. People rushed past, clutching umbrellas, shielding their expensive coats, desperate to reach warmth and light. And in the middle of that chaos, she stood, thin, frail, her hands trembling as she held out a paper cup. Her voice cracked as she whispered the same 3 words again and again, "Spare some change." The world ignored her, as if her existence were a stain on their carefully polished lives. But fate has a way of weaving extraordinary threads through ordinary nights, and that evening, her soft, pleading voice cut through the hardened silence of a man who thought he had everything. A billionaire, celebrated for his power and wealth, found himself stopping, unable to move past her desperate whisper. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, and stories that touch the soul, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan Cole had been called many things: genius, ruthless, visionary. His name was stamped across glass towers and tech empires. Reporters followed him like shadows, investors worshipped him like a savior, and yet, behind the expensive suits and the endless zeros in his bank account, there was a silence he could not escape. A silence so heavy it clung to him at night when the world went quiet. His empire had been built on speed, deals, and an unshakable focus on winning, but it had cost him pieces of himself, pieces he never dared to acknowledge. That night, he was just another man in a dark coat, stepping out of his sleek car into the storm, heading to a gala where champagne flowed like water and laughter rang hollow. But then, he heard her. The sound was so small, so fragile, it might have been lost in the pounding rain. Yet, to Ethan, it was as if the world hushed to let those 3 words reach him: "Spare some change." He turned his head. She couldn't have been more than 24, though hardship carved lines across her face that made her look older. Her hair was plastered to her skin, her clothes soaked through, shoes falling apart. Her eyes, though, were what stopped him: cold, wide, hollow, yet burning with something he couldn't name. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. He wanted to move past, to silence the strange unease curling inside his chest, but his legs betrayed him. Ethan was used to being asked for money, charities begged at his door, politicians sought donations, corporations pitched billion-dollar projects. But this was different. This wasn't a proposal, a deal, or a calculated request. It was life or death whispered through chattering teeth. She wasn't asking for millions, just for enough to matter that night. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt powerless. He slipped his hand into his pocket, pulled out $100 bill, and dropped it into her paper cup. She looked up at him, lips trembling, and whispered, thank you so much." He nodded, walked on, and yet every step felt heavier. That voice refused to leave him. At the gala, Ethan smiled, shook hands, listened to empty conversations about stocks and mergers, but in his mind, he kept seeing her face. The rain dripping from her eyelashes. The raw honesty in her plea. He left early, something he never did, and sat in the back of his car staring out the window, wondering why he couldn't forget her. He told himself it was just pity, just one moment. But deep down, he knew it was something else. Something inside him had shifted. The next night, Ethan returned to that same street corner. She wasn't there. He came again, and again. On the 4th night, he saw her, huddled under a broken awning, shivering. He approached her slowly, unsure what he was doing. She looked startled, as if she expected him to ignore her like everyone else. But when he crouched down and offered her a warm coffee, her eyes filled with tears. Her name was Lily. She had once been a nursing student, working hard with dreams bigger than herself. But life had not been kind. Her mother's illness drained her savings, then her job was lost, and when her mother passed away, Lily had no family, no safety net, and no strength left to keep standing. Homelessness crept in like a thief, stealing everything she had left. As Ethan listened, something inside him broke. He had spent his life thinking only the strongest survived, that success was a measure of willpower. But Lily's story showed him the truth. Sometimes people didn't fall because they were weak. Sometimes they fell because life demanded too much. Days turned into weeks. Ethan kept coming back, bringing food, blankets, anything she needed. At first, Lily resisted. Pride still lived in her fragile frame, and she hated being seen as helpless. But Ethan never pitied her. He treated her as human, as equal, as someone whose voice deserved to be heard. Slowly, she let him in. She smiled again, even laughed softly when he joked awkwardly about not knowing how to make instant noodles. One evening, as the city lights flickered behind them, Lily looked at him and said, "You know, the night you gave me that $100, it wasn't the money that saved me. It was the fact that you saw me. Everyone else looked away, but you didn't." Ethan's throat tightened. He realized then why her voice haunted him. It wasn't just her, it was his own emptiness reflected back. He had been unseen his entire life too, admired but never truly known. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about how many others like Lily were out there, invisible in the very city that celebrated his name. He began funding shelters, quietly, anonymously at first. Then he started programs to help people rebuild, job training, medical care, safe housing. His empire slowly shifted from being just about wealth to being about change. The media noticed, but when asked, Ethan never gave long explanations. The truth was simple, one voice had reminded him of his humanity. But the story wasn't just about Ethan. Lily, too, was finding her way back. With Ethan's support, she returned to her studies, working part-time at a shelter where she helped others like herself. She was no longer the girl with the paper cup, she was a woman who carried hope in her eyes, the same hope she now gave to others. And every time she said, "Spare some change," to donors at charity events, it carried a new meaning. Not a desperate plea, but a call to the world to change for the better. The bond between Ethan and Lily grew unshakable. It wasn't built on wealth or pity, but on respect, shared wounds, and healing. Ethan often told himself that she had given him far more than he had given her. She had given him his soul back. Months later, at a grand event hosted not for profit but for the homeless, Ethan stood on stage. His speech was short, but it silenced the room. All it took was a voice in the rain to remind me what truly matters. I once thought wealth was measured in dollars. Now I know, it's measured in lives touched, in kindness shared, in hope restored. That night, someone asked me to spare some change. What I didn't know was that she was giving me change instead, the kind that transforms your soul. The crowd erupted in applause, but Ethan's eyes searched only for Lily's. She was in the front row, tears glistening, smiling with pride. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your engagement helps spread messages of love, hope, and second chances to more people. And before we end, I have a special request. Comment below with these words: kindness can change the world, if you believe in the power of compassion. That rainy night had started with 3 simple words: spare some change. But in truth, it was not Lily's life alone that changed. It was Ethan's. It was proof that no matter how high we rise or how low we fall, kindness has the power to unlock souls, heal wounds, and remind us what it means to be human.